got 259.
I got a few. Well, we have 259, and even though it's on the agenda, it's not really part of the business. Why don't we stand for the pledge?
It's great.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we can call to order. Let's see, minutes, resolution 2514 to accept the minutes of January 2nd, 2025.
So moved. Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Go. Workshop, we will start with number 2 first to discuss the county benefit funds for the NECEC.
Good afternoon. We've been going back and forth on this a little bit. I think we mentioned this a few months ago, but we wanted to get it down on paper, and hopefully it would spark some conversation amongst you all of how you want to see some of these benefit dollars spent. With that, you know, this is really just conceptual. Hey, we're receiving some benefit funds. This is, in my opinion, we should say, these are some potential uses, and we'll see what comes up. There might be 2 or 3 huge impactful projects that is nowhere near anything on this list. You know, you don't know what's going to come down the pike. So this was really just conceptual. Some of Robert's comments with the educational opportunities and scholarships. There is a separate education fund that I think we could draw that from. Some of the communications, I think we could probably draw from the broadband fund, or maybe a mix. That broadband fund has changed a lot because we now have fiber everywhere, essentially. So we're getting creative with those uses. We're kind of looking at that fund more of a communication or telecommunication fund versus just internet. So I think we have a lot of flexibility. The big ticket items have come and gone, and this is really, you know, at the commission's desk to steward and expend. So previously we've received, the county received $400,000 from this in early drawdown. We spent $200,000 for Run River for their permitting next phases. I guess this was in 2020 maybe, 2019.
A while ago, yeah.
There was $150,000 for the fire training facility in Fairfield,
Yeah.
part of their capital campaign, and then $50,000 for the PPE building up at Communications. So that 400 came into us. We sent it over to Patrick, essentially, and then that would. He signed the back, and the rest is.
Not Dakota.
North Carolina.
Where'd the money come from? Where was that from?
That was from the corridor.
That was the original corridor talks.
Not us.
Is that just kind of slush fund?
That was above and beyond.
Kind of funny money? I mean, it wasn't, that was not TIF money.
No.
That's correct.
That was mad money.
Yep.
Okay.
And so you know, there's some final benefit announcements. And so we approached NECEC and said, you gotta do better here in Somerset, and they did. So, so the county has $600,000 coming in. At what time, I'm not sure, but there was a shakeup. Essentially, when it was in the court system, there's really a 2-year hiatus of, this is on the ballot, it might get shut down, that was appealed, a lot of lawsuits, and then construction delays and stuff like that. Plus, the executive team really, almost all of them switched over, so it took us, like I said a few months ago, quite some time to meet them, establish trust and a relationship with them, and so we've done that. So we're digging our heels in with this to make sure they make good on their promises. But with that, they're all new, so they want to say, all right, what are you going to do with this money? And so that's why we're looking at this today.
I'm sounding kind of stupid here, but are we talking about money that they had promised us from the initial sort of creation of this project, or are we talking about TIF money that's coming down?
Separate, it's totally separate of TIF or,
So this is not TIF we're talking about?
Correct.
This is just what to do with the rest of the money we're gonna get?
yeah.
So we would have had already, but for the delays in the project?
Yeah, and all these benefit funds originally weren't going to be dispersed until the project's done. Some money has been shot out in small pockets, so if we can get some now, or the remainder, we'll try. This could come in later this year, or maybe even after, but essentially they wanted to plan how the commission would want to, or visualize how they'll use these funds, and then have to send them a report on how the county used the first 400,000, so.
Some sort of outline on restrictions?
No. The previous commission was pretty bullish on, we want X amount, we'll use it where and when and how we see fit. I think with the new executive team, I'm not sure as though we can strong arm it as much as we did a few years ago. So I think just having a better layout plan, knowing we're not gonna be boxed in a corner of just these potential uses outlined, you know? So originally it was, you know, the county wants to receive another $1 million in benefit funds, and we're gonna use it how we see fit. A lot of that language has changed into using the host communities where the corridor runs through, and abutting towns or high-impacted areas. And so that's why I talked with Tim. There's a map of where the corridor actually runs through. And so essentially, the communities east and west of that, we're considering high impact and abutting municipalities are.
So is your sense, it would seem like if we could stick with broader parameters so that if things came up in the future, and maybe it's regional, but broader parameters as opposed to specifics, do you feel that this particular team would be amenable to that, or are they looking for specifics?
No, I think they'd be fine with it. If not, they'll tell me, and then we can dive in deeper. But, you know, I'll relay the message. We're not sure what's gonna present itself, and we don't wanna be beholden to that. So, and we have a pretty good relationship with them, so, if that message is sent down to me, I'll obviously relay it, but I think we keep it vague and say, here's 10, 15 things that we might use these funds with. Thank you.
But do we have sort of a contract with them that they are contractually obligated to pay us this money?
Yes.
But they're retaining the right to tell us how we can spend it?
No, they don't want to tell us how to spend it. They just want to have more detail on our future plans.
So what if we said, we're not gonna tell you anything, just give us the money? Is that?
That's one tactic.
Well, I'm not saying, I mean, are they claiming they can withhold the money if we are, let's say we decided we were gonna build the animal shelter with it or something? Are they saying, well, we don't like that, so you can't have it?
I don't think so. I mean, we have it documented with a former CEO, and we can nudge. I think it's probably just being a good sport about it.
Yeah, well, I'm not opposed to that, I'm just wondering what the bottom line was. Or
Yeah.
final thing.
Yep.
Well, we could structure the format of how or what we're to spend the money on the same structure as a TIF, and how that's played out. Those are very broad. They have certain specificalities to them without locking you in.
Mm-hmm.
So we could just use that formula, present that to them, and
Not the community benefit, but the TIF language.
Or you
Right,
just,
because the TIF has certain categories
Right.
that are tied to state statutes, and I think that's not a bad idea, just to say, you know, we'll mirror something like this.
Yeah.
because this is sort of in the nature of TIF. It's also, you keep using the word sort of benefit, it's also sort of like community benefit. You can almost take this one and split it in half, put half of it in our community benefits fund and the other half in just our usual TIF funds.
that's an excellent idea right there.
Yep.
a way to invest it and bleed it to offset things.
Well, that was the idea of the endowments, but,
Yeah.
Well, we can just put it in the bank, or,
What I'm saying?
We have some other funds, we did that with a CD, and the rates have been great, but they're gonna slow down. 30-something thousand in about a year and a half. Ensures longevity, but not enough to make an impact, I think. So if you tuck that away, it'd be 10,000 here, 10,000 there, a couple times a year. So it's up to you guys, obviously.
well, the other thing we could do with it is put it with the SEDC as part of the loan process. That is, and that money would just be in the corridor area for loans in that area.
So SEDC has some funds that we agreed to, half as much as the county, and that was our thought with that. Not saying we can't partner and leverage our funds against each other. And, with a 4 to 6 or 7% interest rate on these business loans, recapturing the principal, you can turn it quite a few times.
Yeah.
So, we can put that in leveraging against other benefit funds, whether it's SEDC or towns or what have you.
And as Joel said, it'd be an investment, except we're investing it in ourselves.
Right. Okay. So what I added, you can see Robert's few bullet points. I did add outdoor rec. I was kind of doing what we're doing now on that call with them. Their ears definitely perked up with outdoor rec. Not saying that you have to, please them spending this out. They might want to see it. And we all know the money goes really quick, those projects.
And expensive.
But again, I think if we just list it as a potential use, I think we're fine, so.
Yeah, no, that's the whole.
well,
idea.
this strikes me as good enough as something to say then, this is what we're thinking about, and let's have the money.
Yep. Yeah, and we can obviously take out the pros and cons, insert the vague TIF language that might mirror it, and give them a one-pager, and see where it goes.
Yeah, just one page.
Yeah.
I'd be more interested to see what sort of resistance you get from them, because if they're really, is this just a way of them trying to back out of the deal because?
No, I think
Slow and-
that first meeting was me explaining how we got here, because they weren't part of it, So when they cut a check with a lot of zeros in it, they want to make sure they've done their homework. So it's really just getting them on board or educating them of past agreements. The whole team and the new CMP president have echoed for about a year now, whatever we promised, we're going to see through. Nothing has changed. So far we've seen that, so.
Good.
Basically making sure we're awake at the switch and the switch actually works.
Yep. But I do think, there's some possibilities for cost savings on the county communication side. And you'd mentioned a specific project. What was it? A couple switch points or something, or towers maybe,
Right.
that, I can sit down with Mike.
That was part of the endowment, so that we could keep those going.
Yep. So I can sit down with Mike and project the next 10 years, repair, upgrade expenses, and see how we can fit that in.
Yeah. And that's the first one, anyway, the EMA communication system,
Yeah, right.
long-term
that was the first one.
sustainability, because we do have our towers. And that's not only EMA, but it's also for the police and fire.
If you're thinking about doing an endowment, there's really no reason why you couldn't couple these funds with a few $100,000 from community benefit, a few $100,000 from TIF, and then have $1 million to operate as an endowment
Right.
for projects like that. So just kind of, make it leveraged and go further. Use some of
Right.
those government terms, leverage the money.
And we can feed that to them too.
Yeah.
My thought with all these, our funds, the broadband funds, is if it's high impact and the money comes in and goes out and it's spent wisely, great. But can we make these dollars run 5, 10, 15, 20 years? And I think that's probably the angle we should try to prioritize, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the gravy train is definitely drying up.
Right.
And it could also be used to backstop broadband fund and education fund, so.
Yeah, actually, the education fund, you might see 50 scholarships for the year, and you have 60 applicants.
Yeah.
And maybe, the county can backfill those 10 students, who knows?
Yeah, and, the thing with that is, I don't know, I don't want to drill down into it, so we just keep it vague.
Okay. All right. So, now we'll get together and shorten this up and send it to you all, and then we'll meet with them again, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
And come back with a check.
Yes.
Yes, back with the check. Actually, cash is king.
He cashed it last time, well, that's Well, great. So if anything comes up after this, feel free to reach out to me and we'll include it and we'll see something in the next few days. So,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Go Riverhawks.
I know, yeah. We're playing Madison, so it's,
Oh.
back in the day, I think.
Take that back.
Wait, can you say that one more time?
I hope you do your best. Your daughter does her best.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Christian. Workshop, policy review, performance review, and remote meeting.
So I filled up your packets with some documents there, and again, if there's no objections, I'd kind of like to work my way through this, through some series of meetings. We do have a collection of fairly random county policies. We've touched on some of them. We did the big work with the handbook last year. So now, according to the charter, commissioners are supposed to review policies at least once every 5 years. And so I've pulled out some of the older ones, and I thought I'd start with those. So what I've provided for you is what we have in writing right now, and what I propose to change it to or edit it to. And the first one I picked was our performance review policy. And if you see the current language, it talks a little bit about basically evaluations, performance reviews, what you could do if you disagreed with your supervisor's evaluation. So I basically tweaked some of that language into a one-page proposed policy that talks about the purpose, it talks about what the policy is, about doing reviews, and who it applies to. And then for your edification, I put in what I believe is the most current template that we have for reviews. That is a fillable PDF form. So a department head can simply go through, fill in the form on the person that they're going to do a review on, email it to them, and schedule a time for them to get together and do the review. That's the practice that I've seen and that I've been doing over the last couple of months. So I just lay it before you. You have any questions? You have any glaring concerns? Are you okay with this policy and the proposed changes?
It's clearer than the previous one.
Yeah, I tried to clear it up a little bit. And if you're okay with it, what I'll do is I'll disseminate the updated policy to department heads and just, make sure people are following procedure with reviews and so forth. You really don't get to do a whole lot of reviews, except one today. So thought this was apropos that I bring this up.
Right. I'm good with it for now.
Okay. So the other one that really does have an impact on you as commissioners is what I call the meeting participation policy, which what I've done is I pulled some old policies that had to do with remote meetings, recordings of meetings, and that sort of thing, and I tried to combine them all together. Because the remote meeting policy that you have in place right now is the boilerplate policy that most towns and counties basically copied and pasted from Maine Municipal and put into place during the pandemic, which, you know, those laws were amended to make it a little less restrictive, but also to try to make sure that people are able to conduct meetings that the public can get access to. So what I'm recommending is that you modify that a little bit to do a couple of things. You're having a policy that says this is the way that government, the governing body, which is you, the commissioners, can participate in public meetings. Remote participation would allow, or rather, I should back up. This policy would allow for remote participation by commissioners and whomever you deem, whether it be budget committee members, other elected or appointed officials, a guest who would want to speak on something. And I think over the last year and a half, you've seen all this. We've had people Zoom into budget meetings. We've had commissioners Zoom in if they're not able to attend. And we've even had guests that are speaking on a workshop item come in through Zoom. So I'm just trying to clarify what we're actually doing with what the policy says. And then there's the expectation under item 3, members of the public body, which is the commissioners or other elected officials, are expected to be physically present for public proceedings, except when being physically present is not practical. And so the 3 examples there, one would kind of cover if there's another public emergency. If the governor declares a public emergency and people can't meet, that's covered by the first example. The second example is illness or other physical condition or temporary absence from the jurisdiction of the body. So I think that's kind of the covering of commissioners being out of town, right? Because that's a temporary absence, right? And then the third one is really kind of weather related. You know, if your road is washed out, you can't get here. If we're holding a meeting and some of the local commissioners can get here, but some that have to travel can't get here. Again, those 3 things kind of cover all those circumstances. So the other thing that we add in here is if a commissioner is participating remotely, they're considered present for a quorum and their vote counts. So before I go on any further, does anybody have any questions or comments about those clarifications?
There was once upon a time a commissioner who wanted to take 6 months of the year off and be in Florida. And I think you'll see that some of these prior remote participation policies denied any communications remotely. Then COVID hit and changed those, aspect of that. So, but I think as far as temporary absence, that might need to be more defined.
Well, should the board that's here, should we have an approval of the, like, well, let's say I'm in Florida, which I typically am in March, and would the board that's here say, well, for the purposes of this hearing, we find that your absence is excusable under Part 3, so therefore we are going to make it somehow official that whoever's participating remotely is in for all purposes. And I suppose if we had a hotly contested issue where it happens in the legislature where they have to bring somebody into a hospital bed to cast a vote, I don't know if we're ever, hopefully not get to that level here, but I mean, maybe there ought to be some formality of approval, just so.
Well, I don't know if I have anything to say about your participation. The people that elected you have something to say about your participation. If you're not participating in the way that they deem correct,
They can vote me out.
Well, or just not reelect you,
Yeah, but
right? I don't think it's, I don't think it's my place to say.
But
But I think it's, we make our own rules, and we're our own governing body, and if we feel that one of our number, and I don't think it's gonna happen, but if somebody was doing something like taking 6 months off to go to, a spa in California, whatever, we would all vote, well, that's not good enough. You wanna participate in meetings, you have to be here. That is not a legitimate excuse. And I don't have a problem. I don't think it's gonna happen very often, but.
Okay.
Because I think it's, I know Sip and I usually go away for parts of the spring mud season, and I think it's sort of routine now that people are not gonna be here, and you were busy. We Zoom all the time.
Right.
And I think we've clearly come under the Section 3 conditions, and just suggesting we make a note of it when we're doing it.
And I wonder, just for, the sake of future boards and commissions, if you need to have something in writing specific to an odd request, or that odd request would be something that you would take up as it comes anyhow. If a member said, I'm going to be out of touch for 6 months, I won't have any access to the internet, I won't have any access to phone, and then you would discuss what you would do. Basically, you would grant them a sabbatical or something to that effect. I think prior to COVID, the availability to participate remotely was nowhere near as advanced as it is now.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if we should be putting parameters on the length of time a commissioner will be gone.
Well, and I would wonder if legally as elected officials, if we are actually able to do that.
Yeah.
And there's no statutes that says that elected officials must be present to vote.
No, in fact, they reversed that
Yeah.
with the legislation that allowed this.
Right.
So, I guess my question is in reference to the 5 commissioners, and you go on vacation for this amount of time, you go on this amount of time, we have a board of 5 in order that we can meet criteria where necessary if one is not here. You know what I'm saying? So as long as there's 3 members here,
As long as there's a quorum.
you're
Right.
quorum. So I don't see why we'd have to have all of that. You can do this, but you can't do this. I have a real problem butting into a person's personal life if they have the ability to go to vacation for a month or 2 in Florida. That's,
Yeah, it's not, I think it's bad. I think it's worked pretty smoothly.
No, it's worked fine.
So,
So we can jump off that bridge and road. We'll burn that bridge when we get to it.
so the other items I tried to incorporate into this is public comment, because if you go to a fully remote public emergency type of situation, by the FOIA rules, you still have to allow the public to comment. So I tried to cover that in a short paragraph that said, members of the public who wish to make comment before the commissioners may do so in person at a regularly scheduled meeting. In the event that a public county meeting becomes fully remote by declared state of emergency, arrangements for public comment will be made in accordance with state statute. I think that kind of covers the intent.
To add to that, I know that Fairfield allows remote participation for comments. So a person can comment during the public comment period via Zoom. And, or they can send an email and that can be read.
Right. Okay. Then we had a whole...
We don't do that with this, right? This doesn't allow that.
I don't know, it doesn't not allow it, but it doesn't specify it.
Normally, if a member of the public wants to speak on something that's related to the agenda, they can make arrangements to get that information to us.
And they usually
anytime,
do.
Or get a Zoom link or something like that.
Yeah.
We did that with the fellows from the spinning mill. They wanted to speak on there, and they did it by Zoom. So,
Doesn't it say, if you want to make a comment, you do so in person, and you only get to to do otherwise if it's a fully remote meeting in a state of emergency.
This is why we have attorneys.
That's
Well,
what
it says may do so, it doesn't say shall do so. Attorney.
Well, the way, I mean,
I understand what you're
I
saying.
don't want to argue about how many angels can fit on the head of a pin here, but I do think that the way this is written, it pretty much says if you want to say something at a public hearing, you've got to be here. And the only way you can't be here is if it's a totally remote emergency meeting by a governor's order or whatever. And I think that's a good thing, myself.
Right.
Because I think people, if they want to participate in an important public issue that they feel important, that they think is important, they should think it's important enough to get down here and meet with us in person, and instead of sometimes taking sort of ill-informed pot shots from a distant location. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Zoom, as you know.
And
Take pot shots right from there.
I do
Pot
know,
shots here, yeah.
I do know that, for example, the selectmen in Norwich Walk, at least at one point, they took that posture, that they won't accept public comment unless you're in person. And so that's,
State of emergency.
right.
I don't think that we're pressed with public comments,
Well, you never know what might be around.
That's right.
except we were at one point with
It's a lot
NECEC.
easier when they're in person and the sheriff is present then. Of course, on Zoom, you can hit the button. You don't have a 6-second delay though.
Yeah, right.
Just trying to watch out for you, John.
And the last couple of things I tried to bring in from, again, some random policies about recording the meetings. I mean, it's, if someone wants to come in with their phone and record this meeting, that's perfectly acceptable. There are no laws against it. We offer a recording of the meeting, and people can access those recordings through the county website. And then if somebody gets a phone call, they should leave the room, leave the meeting. So I appreciate your thoughts on that. Any other comments?
No, it's good, thank you. What's that? Very good. No public hearings, public comment to allow members of the public to comment or reserve time to speak on an upcoming agenda item. I see no one from the public. Rushing to the podium. So we will continue on to new agenda items, commissioners only.
None.
Administrator report.
So in addition to the information I submitted, just a couple things to update you on. One is 2 of the Budget Committee seats have been filled by caucus. Cambridge Selectman Mike Watson is now the District 3 representative, and he fills Hiram Weymouth's seat. And Cornville, because Julian Payne was a member, or is a member of their planning board, Cornville did appoint him to the Budget Committee. So Districts 1 and 4 will caucus in the coming weeks. We hope we'll have a full-fledged Budget Committee by the end of the month, just in time. Also, on your desks, I printed out a sheet that basically is a brief summary of the community benefit grants from the last 3 rounds. A couple things I wanted to draw to your attention. The first round we did back in the fall of '23, those grants had to be, according to our rules, they had to be expended by the end of December, just last month. And you'll notice on your agenda today, you have the Norwich Walk Sportsman Club. They were one of the original awardees, and they did finish, although they didn't spend as much money as they thought, and so you're awarding that one today. There are 2 highlighted there that basically withdrew. They got in contact with us and said, we're not going to do this project. One was the pickleball courts at Hinckley, and the other was some blueprints for the American Legion in Madison. But then the very first one on the top of the page, number 23-1, Kennebec Behavioral Health. They had applied for some funds to do some ADA renovations to their building right across the street here on High Street. Due to staffing issues and contractor issues, they did not get that done by the end of December. They sent me an email this week asking if the commissioners would consider extending them for 3 months to get this project completed at the end of March. So I want to bring that before you to see what your thoughts were.
Well, I would say that if somebody wanted to make a motion to accept the extension, and it was seconded, we would be able to discuss it.
I'd
With
make
a
a
vote.
motion. I'd make a motion to extend the time period for,
Into March?
Yeah, March 31 is what they're
March
asking.
31,
Yep,
to finish the project, whatever.
yep.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there a discussion? Scott?
A little bit more elaboration on why it was not completed. I know you said staffing issues, but is there more information as to?
I think the email was, I don't have it with me, I can certainly forward it to you. It was only about a half a paragraph long, and basically what they were doing is they're doing an ADA bathroom and some other ADA accessibility to it. I think their staffing issues was the point person that they had for that left, and so it kind of got lost in the shuffle of getting it done. And then when they realized, because I had sent them emails letting them know they need to spend the money by the end of December, I think they kind of panicked on that and couldn't find a contractor fast enough.
I guess the only other thing I would say is if we do this and we're setting the criteria to do this with everybody that comes along.
Well, you are the ones that govern the rules of the program, so I guess the answer to that would be, it's up to you on a case-by-case basis. If people don't make, a reasonable case, then you don't allow it, but, this one seemed to be pretty reasonable.
So I'm assuming that we don't have any rules in place that even addresses this one way or the other?
No, it just said, when I issue the letter, it says, you need to have all your funds expended, and I put a date, and this date was December 31st of '24.
Right. So there isn't anything saying that there could be a potential extension or
Right.
or anything like, but at the same time, there's not anything saying that there won't be, so I would like to see us put something like that in writing that, and maybe even something specifically on the request for an extension.
Okay.
We go through the idea of extending for another 3 months and they still have the same issues. Are we just gonna keep perpetuating this thing, or is it just better to say, well, look, when you get your ducks in a row, come back and apply again?
Yeah, we could have something that would say, funds must be expended within a year of the project, whatever the number is, and that if you fail to do that, you must seek approval of the commission for continued
Extension.
funding, and if the commissioners don't support it, you'll have to reapply, or
Another-
forget it.
Similar to the summary that is put on the application, again, a reason for somebody regarding the reason for wanting the extension. Okay.
Sure, yeah,
Right.
there'd be a space for
Right.
that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's folks out there that are
And
going above and beyond to make sure they fit within that time frame that we've outlined, and then,
yeah.
and this seems perfectly reasonable, it just brings up the idea that maybe there needs to be something a little more specific.
The other thing that I have a question about, which we might know was done about, is too, and that is having a specific time frame where they have to apply for this extension. Should we be applying for extension once we realize, well, we're not gonna make that deadline date?
Right, usually I'll send out a reminder email to folks, probably about 9 months afterwards, so I sent them out in October, November, just to say, hey, by the way, if you haven't got your project done, that sort of thing.
And you could say, if you want an extension of time, you must put that in writing within 30
Yep.
days of the expiration.
Yeah, okay.
Or else the
I think
funds
we
will-
definitely can do that.
Withdraw.
I like to track it this way, just so I know that it's for Patrick's sake and for everybody else, that there's not money that's promised that's kind of hanging out there indefinitely.
right.
So this, if KBH is able to complete this project in March, that basically closes the book on the first round. And so then we can continue to track the other rounds. So,
Very good. So all in favor of the extension?
What was the,
March 31st.
March 31st was the,
yeah.
31st is it? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, let's go.
And unless you have any questions, that's all I had for my report.
I do have a question. On this sheet, it shows, where would we find information, or how could we find information on some of these past projects, I guess? I'm not familiar with the Kitchenette 185 project. Where would I get more information on that?
Yeah, I could contact Main Street Skowhegan, because that's their project. They're trying to build a food co-op right like a couple blocks away from here in one of their buildings there, and they've been raising money for that for years.
Okay.
So, but yeah.
Thank you.
And I can certainly send out, a request for just a short email summary of how the project went and who it benefited and that sort of thing.
Or even, maybe even some of the original, I don't know what was required at that point in time. Some of the original planning or
Yep.
thoughts and ideas would, if you can get your hands on it.
Yep, I can do that.
Anything else? All set? Finance reporting from Patrick.
No major changes. All the departments are continuing to be favorable to the plan, so a little boring. Good boring at that. We are getting deeper into the budget cycle, sitting down with the department heads, going through that, and then first of next month, we'll be sitting down with Tim, so. You'll be talking a lot of finance in the next few months, you'll get sick of it. But if you have any questions about what was given to you, the handouts.
Do you have that copy? I have, yeah.
Any
But there's
questions?
no major changes.
Okay. Sheriff?
Patrol did 440 calls for service last week. We have an annual report that we're going to be putting out to towns that we just completed. We have two deputies in they call it the green pen, but it's a reserve school that will be graduating in another week. And we'll be starting them on the FTO program in hopes to get them in the academy this fall. And we've offered three jobs, conditional job offers for three other individuals for patrol deputy. The body camera for the AI, the body camera portion of that, we're starting to roll that out now. In the short term, in conversations with a few deputies, they're finding it is saving them time in their report writing. And lastly, I want to thank Commissioner Cezak for attending the MSA legislative breakfast that we had this week, talking to legislators about concerns of counties and the sheriff's offices.
And jails.
Yeah, well, and the conversation was about a lot about jail funding, talk about the difference between jails and prisons and rural patrol. So,
Any of the new weed tax gonna go to county sheriff's departments?
so I
Any of that?
no, I have not, have not heard any conversation of that. I know that the state is reluctant to share revenue with counties.
So, the legislative breakfast, you meet with legislators, do they seem responsive to the notion that the jails need support from the state, or do they?
So the state has funded us for the next biennium, which is going to, I think, might cause us some budgetary issues moving forward. We asked for, on their mandates, we had asked for 13 million in the first part. And when I say 13 million, this is statewide.
Yeah.
14 million the second part of the biennium, They agreed to do Fund MAT, which is at a rate of $4 million. So over the biennium, that's $8 million, about $19 million short of what we're asking to their responsibility to county jails. So those conversations will be continuing in the future. And then to your point, I mean, it's more of this is the 132nd legislature. This is they're just coming in, so a lot of this is educational about what some of the potential issues are. The state has been very clear in all our conversations with them thus far that they prefix all conversations is that there is no money and the $450 million shortfall that they're going to have to try to fill, I guess.
So if I could just add something to that in trying to practice some of these explanations. If you take all the cumulative county jail budgets, all 15 jails, that's about $127 million. Of that, the state throws $20 million to that. That leaves that $100 million to be covered by you and I, the property tax. And I think that distribution is lost at the legislature. I don't think they understand that. I think they believe the state's a 50-50 partner when it comes to jails. So what the Sheriff's Association and the county commissioners have been trying to do is to get that $20 million number up to 33, 34, 35 million. Just, you know, a simple ask. And the governor's office came back and said, okay, we'll do 4 million. So in the move from 20 to 24 million, we're hoping that move will go from 20 to 29, 30, 31, somewhere in that range. So we do have opportunity to speak to the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee. That's coming up next Wednesday. Scott Atkins, who's the administrator from Penobscot, and they have jail issues. And Jeff Shute, who's the county administrator from Androscoggin, and they have jail issues. Those two will be joining me, and we'll be doing our presentation to the Criminal Justice Committee to try to make these situations more understandable by the legislatures. So,
and to follow up on that, in our, I believe our February MSA meeting is going, tentatively, it's going to be held in Bangor, and I believe it's going to be, for the first time, actually a combined meeting with the county commissioners and the sheriffs, so we can collaborate, get on the same page, same message moving forward. Before, it's the sheriffs have had a message, the commissioners have had a message, and though that might be the same message, it might came in from different venues and might be slightly different, which it could be sometimes confusing. I think if we can get together with one message to the state, I think it'll be, I'm hoping that it'll be more productive.
What are a couple of the more current mandates that are either only partially funded or not funded at all that's been handed down from the state?
So the last set of mandates that were handed down to the state, the commissioner reported out that they did not have a fiscal note. And then by law, there's two laws really. One law is that if it has a fiscal note attached to it, it has to go in front of the legislature. The second part of that is that if the state mandates something for a county, they have to fund it by 90%. That's in our Maine's constitution. So there were these last set of standards. There was a disagreement on the fiscal note on that. There was a hearing with MDOC about the difference of opinion, or we actually testified against the standards because of the potential fiscal notes that could be attached to them. Trying to protect our county taxpayer, and that decision has not been made yet about moving those standards forward.
Prior to that, the big issue has been, I think it's Title A, Section 1208 and 1208B, where in state statute it says that all jails will provide medical health care, because you lose your main care as soon as you're incarcerated. And then there's all jails will provide some sort of medically assisted treatment for substance abuse, and all jails will provide mental health care. So those are all in state statute. And what the Sheriff's Office has been trying to argue to the Department of Corrections is all of those have a fiscal note. It's $1.7 million for Somerset to provide health care to inmates. It's nearly $1 million to provide medical assisted treatment. And I don't even know if we can really put a number on mental health care. So right there's $2.7 million that Somerset spends on these things that are absolutely required to do by the state. Now, are they good things and are they the right thing to do? Are they human rights? That's where the state will try to muddy the water and say, no, this is not a mandate. It's a human right for this person to have treatment. It's a human right for that. So that's kind of the pushback that the state has given when cumulatively the counties asked for $13.7 million and then another $14 million in the next biennium just for these things.
And to the county administrator's point, these are good services.
Yeah.
Really, the issue is who's going to pay for them, and our only revenue source is through property tax, and where the state, as you all know, has many other revenue sources, and at some point we have to protect our county taxpayer. And still be able to provide the level of service to try to help these individuals assimilate back into the community. So, I mean, those are the conversations that are going on now.
Thank you.
Yes, so-
When we house state and federal, do we pick up the tab for those folks too?
So, federal inmates are a separate contract. And I'm about ready to solidify that contract. That has come up for renewal. I've been working with our federal partners there will be an increase in boarding rate on that. We do board out of county inmates, and we're adjusting that up a little bit. And so state inmates, that's a bigger question. And there has been legislation, well, not legislation, but proposals to identify those state inmates, and then the identification goes to when you're booked in, is it A crime, B crime, C crime? Those crimes that would eventually get you to a state facility. That's where we've been getting some pushback. We do house state probation violations that we don't get compensation from the state. Now, the state's going to argue that they have a special unit that they will take. So we have an inmate in the state facility, a county inmate in the state facility right now because they're better, have more tools to deal with someone who has violent, severe mental health issues than we do here at the local level. So they'll argue a little bit about that, but that's, to me, that's a smaller price tag than what comes into our jail. If that answers your question.
And I just want to add that we're hoping that the legislatures will understand that whenever they pass a mandate that increases our fiscal note, that it also increases taxes, especially property taxes, which is the most regressive tax of all. So we really have to have our legislators get it out from hiding behind passing bills, that they're not putting the ink to raising the tax. It forces counties and municipalities to raise property taxes.
But what's really frustrating for me right now is that the state gave MDOC something like a 10.6%, and don't hold me that, but it was over 10% increase in their budget. My conversation with the commissioner was, why can you flat fund the counties when my drivers are the same as your drivers? My payroll's gone up, my utility's gone up, my food's gone up, and my medical has gone up. They don't accept. So that in part, there's a little bit of a rub there. And I'm not saying that they pay the whole piece. I mean, we have a responsibility, but they also hold a responsibility because they are putting their state-charged inmates in our jails. There was an argument, 70%, 75% of my population is pretrial. There's a discussion going on about that right now, that some of the jails are overcrowded, and my reply was, we are just the end results, right? It's really your judicial system that to fix is going to cost a lot of money. You can't penalize us because we're holding those pretrial inmates.
One silver lining is, historically, the legislators that we send to Augusta fight for the taxpayers here, so there is a little bit of solace in that, even though many times they lose the battle. But
And I do want to say that Somerset County was well represented at the breakfast yesterday.
good.
That's a true statement, and for that, the people of Somerset should be happy that our representatives did have, to Commissioner Cezak's, had a strong present at that meeting yesterday.
The eggs are usually pretty good.
There's that.
A lot of times it's the senator.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it the senator again?
The senator, right.
Yeah, usually it's the senator.
But it's a complicated issue, and it has been for a long time.
So with that, any, moving forward with the vehicles? And,
Commissioner, if you could fix that,
well, that's kind of why I asked.
now down at your feet.
That's why I kind of asked if you had the conversation with the other sheriffs about collaborative purchasing.
So we didn't have that conversation. I mean, we can have that conversation in February. This meeting was consumed with jail funding, to be honest
Yeah,
with you.
no, I understand. This wasn't the meeting to do it.
But
I was thinking if it was informal conversations.
There wasn't at this one.
Yeah.
I can tell you that once we get by that, this issue, and maybe we can talk about it in February, when we have commissioners actually there.
And it doesn't have to be, collaborative purchasing doesn't necessarily have to be about vehicles, it could be about any kind of thing. But vehicle seems to be our shortage.
Yeah, that's vehicles are problematic. I'm hoping that our supply chains in this country get straightened out, or manufacturing gets straightened out, and we'll see.
Yeah,
But I don't know that.
we'll see how it goes.
See how it goes.
Any other questions for our sheriff? Seeing none, I'll ask if District Attorney Dostie has.
Nothing new from the DA's office here. We've got a resolution coming up in new business, but other than that, it's been straightforward and business as usual.
David?
I think this was included in your packet, but I heard from Winslow Community Cupboard today. I think they came in front of you last year. I don't know if it was community benefit thereafter, but they contacted me, and I did not realize they distributed food throughout Somerset County, including members or citizens of the UTs. And in the email, they list, these aren't individual people. You can see where it says Concord and then Lexington, Long Pond, Moxie Gore, Cumberland Pond, Rockwood, and Upper Shannon. Those are actually a number of like food packages that were picked up by citizens of these locations. So they're basically trying to raise funds, and we do give funds to the Bingham Food Pantry. And I was thinking we probably should support this pantry also, this food cupboard. They are doing very beneficial services. The fact that they're bringing food up to these locations where they're going to the Forks, they're going to Jackman, and the residents in the UTs are merely driving to the nearest town to pick up food supplies. So what I'd like to do is be able to add those to future budget and to maybe cut them a check for this year out of TIF possibly to help out their services.
What are they asking for? How much money?
They're asking for a donation, right?
We didn't ask
To
for
donate.
just a donation.
So it could be $100, could be $100,000.
Yeah.
What do we usually give to Bingham?
I'm sorry.
How much do we give to Bingham?
$1,000 a year.
Yeah.
That was my initial thought. Also for these, you could increase that if you chose.
Possibly a strange question. So it's Winslow, and I mean, Linda does a great job and everything else, but if we were to support Bingham in a better way, could they fill this need?
No,
No, they're
Bingham
just not
doesn't
able to.
deliver food.
What's that?
People come to Bingham to pick up food.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, but
Would they have to
these
go there?
actually deliver, which I find shocking, the amount of transportation costs they must run into.
They deliver to,
So they go to a agreed upon location, and the Winslow Food Cupboard actually has 3 trucks and trailers that are on the road.
There's a
every
calendar
week.
of their locations included.
They'll go to the parking lot of the town office in the Forks, and they'll set up there for 4 or 5 hours. They'll go all the way up to Jackman. And so
and they distribute free food?
they do mostly fruits and vegetables. They
Now, how
don't,
do you qualify to get the free food?
you just go up and say, I would
There's no
like some free
qualification.
food. I mean, it's, since COVID, the qualifications for food, pantry food have just been eliminated. Basically, if you say, I would like some of that food, they'll give it to you.
Yeah, they
So what
ask,
does like Jimmy's Market feel about this?
they ask first name and where you're located. That's why we know that these UTs have.
Because,
people Getting food.
I'm sorry, because to your point, because they limit what they have to fruits and vegetables that are near expiration, most of the chains and markets don't have much of an issue with it.
Oh, okay. And don't they get some of those from the chains and markets as well?
They do, they also utilize their relationship with the Good Shepherd Food Bank.
Yeah.
So,
But they do a very good job. I see them in Fairfield and in other
yeah, they're.
places around.
I mean,
Oh,
They're in Madison.
They're doing a great job.
Right,
It's
right.
amazing.
Yeah, my thought is always, with the same money, can we serve more people? Thank you for the information on Bingham.
Well, I wasn't even aware that this was happening until she called me today.
Yeah.
The food pantry, I thought they just had food for people that showed up. They're delivering, and they're delivering a long ways.
Yeah,
They
Yeah.
have sponsored drop off too, because I mean, even outside of the UT, I mean, I know that same outfit and Linda's involved with it.
Yeah,
Over in
yeah.
St. Albans, they bring a bunch of stuff over to
They do.
the enrichment center and they pass out there. I mean, so it is, they travel a lot.
So would you like a resolution on the next?
Yeah.
sure, yes, please.
Would you like to put a dollar amount on that for the next meeting, or just leave it open for now?
We can leave it over for now. Anything else?
No, that,
Nothing on roads or,
well, yeah, I can give you one on our roads. DOT is replacing a bridge on the Long Falls Dam Road in Lexington.
yeah,
It's their stretch of the Long Falls Dam Road, we own further north, but this is their stretch. And they're originally going to look at a bypass so they could send traffic around. It's going to be blocked off by the new bridge and replacing it. and they were going to use County Road, it was the old County Road in Lexington, and it goes up into Highland Plantation. But DOT looked this over, and while our section is pretty well upkept and would meet the traffic, the Highland Plantation side does not. It would require a lot of DOT work and expense to get it up to all the truck traffic that goes down that road. So they're going to put in a bypass, a one-lane bridge beside it, and they'll run traffic through that while they're replacing the bridge that's there now. And they're estimating a year and a half.
Is this DOT gonna build the bridge, or are they subbing it out to some?
I do not know.
No problem.
It's scheduled for 2027, so I don't know if anything's written in stone yet.
Yeah.
But, you know, I talked to Jerry Dostey today, and that's when I was talking, because my original knowledge of this was they were going to run the bypass, run a detour. And they decided that was going to be too expensive to operate the roads. So I found that out today. I don't know who's going to get the project, whether they'll sub it out or do it themselves at this time.
We do have a resolution later on road maintenance resolution in Concord. Did you want to speak to that now, or wait till that resolution?
Speak to it now.
Yeah, the county has always maintained the Clutch Mountain Road in Concord. And we have a stretch of the road that was always year-round, snow removal included. There was a tail end of that road that was only summer maintenance. All we basically had to do was keep it passable for people that own land beyond our point. And some folks bought a lot, and in all their research, they were told they were buying on a private road. And that was actually a stretch we've always maintained. So we've kind of going to clarify today that the point that we've always maintained to, and DOT basically has agreed because, you know, they have that marked as public road. So we're going to just clarify, get it in deeds, that we will maintain this section of the road as we always have, and we're going to have it legally on paper, so there won't be any more questions about it.
Yeah.
And I put up a sign on Saturday specifying that where this sign is the end of the public road, and it's private road from there on. And there are some people that own honey camps and a couple full-time residents back there also. So we're just clarifying, getting things down on paper, what should have been put on paper years ago.
That keeps the cemetery accessible.
The cemetery is going to be accessible. They want to do the maintenance on it, and they basically want to be told ahead of time. People will be asking them, telling them when they want to visit the cemetery. It's, you know, the cemetery is debatable. As far as we have maintained it, it's on our list of Concord cemeteries. It is one gravestone and a few other graves, depending on who you talk to, how many other graves there are. And it's basically a path up a hill, and it's in the trees, there's a small clearing in the trees. There's no lawn, there's no fence, there's no, nothing besides one gravestone and a small clearing in the woods.
So these folks that you referenced that did the research,
Yep.
do they have a concern one way, are they, or were they just trying to clarify if their deed was correct, or do they have an issue one way or
They
the other?
had a concern with people going there, and they discussed this with Tim, so.
Yeah. There are two parcels that Fletcher Mountain Road kind of runs in between before it gets to the end of county maintenance, and those parcels have been owned by a family for many years, and so they were sold off. There was a little bit of dispute during the sale because there was an owner, and then he took, his son took him to court so that he could sell these properties, and so there was contentiousness there. But when the title work was done, they found a document in deeds that said, this is a private road. So when the people bought the property, they were assuming they're on a private road. So they posted their no trespassing signs way up at the beginning of their property. Well, that caused consternation from everybody else around, and so actually Lloyd Trafton got involved with this. He was very helpful, pointing us in the right directions of things. And then Dave and I met with this couple that bought this property the other day just to clarify, because they fully expected that they were going to have to maintain this portion of the road. That was their expectations when they bought it, and they were willing to do that. But to clarify where it was, we've actually drafted a resolution with some help from legal to do a belts and suspenders approach here, because we have a DOT node that's on a map. We have GPS coordinates of where it ends, and we reference the gate that exists at this period of time. This issue goes back 3 or 4 generations as to who maintains that road. So we felt it was high time to put something in writing that clarifies.
So are they in a good frame of mind that the road is gonna be maintained
Yes.
further than they thought? Okay, so there's not gonna be any sort of pushback
Right.
or, hey, this is our private road, don't come on our road kind of thing?
Not from these people.
Okay.
There may be from other folks down that road.
Okay.
All right. So moving along, no unfinished business, new business, resolution 2515 to authorize posting a system support specialist position for the Somerset IT department.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Just a quick question.
Question?
Is this a new position or an existing position that needs to be filled, or?
Good question. So this was budgeted for as a half position that the funds would be available as of January. And this position is a system support specialist that hopefully can be hired soon enough to fill the position when we have an individual retire in December. So that was discussed at the previous budget, that we'd have a half position. So that's what this posting is for.
Didn't remember. Okay.
So, all in favor? Good, thank you. Resolution 2516 to pay the following awards for community benefit funds for completion of matching grant projects. Carabec High School, $3,597, and Norwich Walk Sportsmen's Association, $7,500.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? To go. Resolution 2517 to approve the hiring of Ivy Hayes Height and Derek Castelletto as full-time corrections officers for Somerset County Jail.
So move.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Resolution 2518 to approve the hiring of Rebecca Smith as programs manager for the Somerset County Jail.
So move.
Second?
Third.
Any discussion? All in favor? So, Resolution 2519 to authorize the posting of an administrative assistant position for the Somerset County Sheriff's Office.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Resolution 2520 to approve this hiring of Shanna Brown as staff development coordinator for Somerset County Jail.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? 2521 to approve criminal forfeiture transfers for the district attorney's office.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Well, can I just ask a quick, I know.
Sure, go
Too
ahead.
late, too late.
No, that's fine, yeah. Go ahead.
There's a lot of guns involved, as I read the materials.
There are.
So how do you dispose of them?
I'm going to defer to the sheriff on this one here. I'm relatively new to the forfeiture process. It's primarily just transferring the ownership over. It's my understanding they would be gone to auction if that's not.
Well, so we've had a change of policy in that. All confiscated guns, you get pennies on the dollars for a trade-in. Years back, that was the process. We're going to be destroying those guns. So they'll be out of circulation.
Now, is that a mandate from the state, or is that just their policy?
My policy.
Okay, I didn't know that it might be more, a better use to run them through auction at Poolins.
A lot of the guns are junk guns. I don't know if they would make it to the auction. Back in the day, they would contract, we would, I do remember 10, 11 years ago, we haven't done anything with the guns for a long time. We would have a gun dealer come in and would put them towards product to reduce in our line. But again, the money that you get from that, again, is pennies on the dollar. And I don't want to say the political part, that's not right, but if that gun gets back out into the community and something happens, for me, it's not worth the headache. If the commissioners want me to auction those guns off, that's a discussion we can have. But right now, my policy is that guns that we take in confiscation, I'm going to destroy the guns so they don't get back into the communities.
I guess the other tie-in question I have to that is I noticed the advertisement in the newspaper where the state police was disposing of guns, and they were, I believe, asking people to come forward if they had owned those guns.
Yeah, so there's a process for getting rid of evidence that we follow. There's we'll advertise that. So the guns that are forfeited were used in crimes, and when you do that, the state owns those guns now. I mean, the state, the county, and they're no longer the owner. So through that forfeiture, the judge can say, you've lost all rights to those guns. You're forfeited to, in this case, the county. And so now the county becomes a possession of these weapons. And again, I think, my opinion, and we can have a discussion if you want at some point, but my opinion, because we get pennies on the dollar, the guns have been forfeited, take them out, make sure that they don't get back into the communities, and destroy the guns.
My assumption is through the process, if the
firearm
was...
I'm a Second Amendment guy.
Yeah,
so
I know that. So through that process, if the firearm was stolen, does the owner that it was stolen from, do they have an opportunity to
once the
recover their stolen property?
Good question. If it was stolen property, we would make contact with the owner because it is their property, right?
Okay.
So we give them. But when the judge or the state forfeits your gun, the gun becomes the property of the state. When I say state, government. Right.
I think I'd like to have further discussion on this at some point in time. Who constitutes a gun being a junk gun? What dealers or smiths out there might be interested in this and be able to pay a little more? Pennies on the dollar is better than nothing at all. And I understand what you're saying about them getting back out on the street, but, I just don't think it's, the destruction of them is, based upon, the junk guns, but who constitutes them being junk guns?
And please, they're not all junk guns. Some are you could make, I guess you could make some money on them, but for me, and if putting them back, and I'm not putting them back in the community, and if in fact that gun was used in perpetrating another heinous crime, I don't want my name attached to that. Or my when I say me, I'm a nobody, but the county, our entity associated with that. And it's just what I can get for those, for me, it's not worth it.
So I would, in the future discussion that probably we should have, would also be that trade-off. I mean, how many man-hours are involved in this? And, at the end of the day, is there actually, any any money that could save the taxpayers some money, outside of the principle,
Yeah.
that I also agree with.
I know, I understand the principle, but I also, publicly it's out that, oh, the sheriff destroyed all the guns. That's gonna come down on you too. So,
That's, I understand the responsibility of that.
It's,
If someone wanted to, wanted to fault me for destroying guns that were used in crimes, I mean, you have that right to do that, I guess. Philosophically, because that adage that guns don't kill people, people use the guns to kill people, but it just, I think we have an obligation, the county, that these weapons, unfortunately, were used in perpetrating crimes, and I just wouldn't want them back in the community.
I agree with everything you're doing, Sheriff, I support it completely, and I think the headline that is down the road saying that the gun used to kill this woman in a domestic violence incident was purchased at an auction and came from the sheriff's office, and was used in previous crimes is a very bad headline, doesn't really do the community any good, and I think what you're doing is a good idea. There are plenty of guns around for people who need them, other than those.
But I understand the other argument.
I guess-
Years ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago, I thought the same. I've just had a lot of time to reflect on it, and, I mean, I own guns, and everyone has a right to own a gun. I never want to see that compromised. Where I've evolved to is that if a gun is used in a crime, I don't want to be gaining profit from that.
I understand that completely. I just really think the biggest thing for me is, let's just not write these off as junk guns, and if there's money to be made, let's make it.
Can we figure out when we can have the conversation? I mean, can we set something, set a date in the future?
I think we can schedule a workshop and maybe allow the sheriff and I to do a little background information to talk about the true costs associated.
Excellent.
So we'll wait until March for that. Give you some time to,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
We gotta vote on that.
So we've already accepted Resolution 2521, Resolution 2522, to approve Commissioner's mileage for November and December of 2024.
So,
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? To go. Capital Reserve Expenditures, Resolution 2523, to approve the transfer of $15,195.90 from opioid settlement funds to the 2025 sublocade programs at the Somerset County Jail.
so,
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? To go. Unorganized Territory, to clarify county maintenance of a portion of Fletcher Mountain Road in Concord.
roll them.
So moved?
No, he already did this.
No, this is a motion.
You have to vote on it.
So moved. So moved.
Okay.
So moved.
Thank you.
So what is your motion?
The motion is to clarify the maintenance of the portion.
So the motion would be to accept this language as presented.
Accept that language.
Yeah.
So moved to accept that language. Second to accept.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Oh, I have one question. You said they ran that through. Is that like, did we get a legal opinion on that?
We did.
Did we go to our high-priced out-of-town counselor, or did we get some local guy that could provide a reasonable cost?
Dave has found a very good lawyer recommended by DOT specific to these types
Oh,
of
okay,
things.
great.
And she just provided a little bit of guidance to me by email at no cost.
I'm glad to hear it.
Okay.
Kudos to David.
Well played.
Warrants, Resolution 2525 to approve the treasurer's warrant for general fund, Somerset County Jail and unorganized territories in a total amount of $570,375.80.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? And miscellaneous discussion items, commissioners only. Joel?
I have nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing? And I just want to say that I was elected vice president of the Maine County Commissioners Association this past Wednesday, so, and I'm also...
Congratulations in order?
Were you
at the meeting?
I was at the meeting. I was also elected to be the NACO representative for, one of the NACO representatives for Maine. So I'll be going down to Washington DC to represent Somerset County and the state of Maine for the counties.
Thank you.
A full, complete monthly report.
You will get one, full and complete, blank page. Well, and that's all I have to report at this time. Other than the fact that next Wednesday we'll have our caucus for our District 1 budget committee member.
Mine coming up in Canaan as well. On a Wednesday.
And, seeing none, we should go into our executive session.
Executive session.
All in favor?
Sheriff Murphy. Where am I supposed to give it?
Yeah, that's right, I did in Solon last year, and it's a long drive, it's like I'm in Canaan. Yeah, people live
It's a long drive for you.
big time.
Yeah.
So if you guys get pulled over, they won't be able to provide proof of insurance.
We need to turn off all our lights.
The
and-
chances of them getting in an accident.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, have a